Oklahoma Newsroom. You're watching the Press Row. I'm Jenny Carlson here in studio. On the road is Barry Trammell heading back towards Oklahoma after last night's OSU Central Michigan game. Again, the Cowboys winning 24-13. And Barry, let's start right there. Obviously, we finally got to see a college football game after all the weeks of practice and all the build-up. It didn't maybe go as well as OSU was expecting, but what do you walk away from that game being concerned about? What are the areas that you feel like are really worth being concerned over?
Well, you know, some of the obvious, of course, we've talked about both in print amongst ourselves and everywhere else. But you'd like to see OSU run the ball with a little more authority. You'd like to see the OSU passing game be more efficient and crisp. But walking away from that game, the thing that struck me is OSU needs to get a kicker. I mean, Ben Grogan's at it again. He misses two makeable field goals last night, 42, and which was right in the middle of the field, and a 26-yarder. And if if he makes those kicks, all of a sudden, the score's 30-13, and things look a lot better. So, lots of teams struggle in openers. You're not in rhythm. You're ironing things out. That's sort of to be expected. But man, you got to have a kicker that can make routine field goals.
Well, and Barry, I think too, a lot of the talk, at least that I was hearing, was that Ben Grogan was going to be as healthy and as comfortable and as confident as he's been in quite a while. He's sort of struggled over the last couple years through injury and some problems with hip and different things that obviously affect you when you're a kicker. He was doing what he could, even with some pain and some different things going on there. And everything I'd heard was on the up and up with Ben Grogan. So the fact that he stepped out there, and Barry, I don't know anything about the mechanics of kicking, but he hit both of the misses to the left. It looked like he just, mishit him. I don't know if you want to borrow some golf terms, but there was a duck hook going on out there in my mind. So maybe it's fixable. I don't know, but they just look like flat misses from where I was sitting.
He didn't kick well 2 years ago. Started off shaky last year, but then got really solid and dependable, for most of last season. So Cowboys had reason to be optimistic. But, man, the unfortunate plight of the kicker is you get a few opportunities, and if you sort of solidify your reputation as undependable, coaches don't have a lot of recourse other than to accept that reputation.
Yeah.
You can't keep going. I mean, I think Mike Gundy might have to start looking at other options if Ben Grogan shows more propensity to struggle.
Well, and it's interesting too, because all of the talk was, it's in such a good place. You can be more concerned about the punting and the kick returning and the punt returning, and maybe it wasn't super fantastic across the board, but you saw some pretty positive signs of, guys that could do their job. But then to have the one veteran struggle was a little bit of a surprise. Barry, one other area with OSU, kind of as we've dug down into it, the intermediate passing game. We didn't see much success there. We saw, the short stuff worked out pretty well for Mason Rudolph in the offense. The longer stuff tended to work okay, but that intermediate stuff that he was frankly pretty decent at a year ago was lacking last night. Central Michigan, problem with OSU. What do you chalk that up to?
Well, I don't know. I think that is a concern. Mason Rudolph, from the way I scored it, Mason Rudolph had a better completion percentage on deep balls than he did on intermediate. Yeah. Which is nuts.
Yeah.
The slants, the out patterns, and a couple of drops, a couple of missed throws, a couple of just well-covered plays. So it wasn't anything one area in particular. But that's sort of the bread and butter of the air raid. Is you can always get the 11-yard slant or the 5-yard cross. You can always have sort of a staple to go to, and OSU couldn't go to it last night, and that's why their offense struggled.
Yeah,
you want to know why OSU's offense struggled? It's because the intermediate passing game last night was not good.
Yeah.
So I assume that's easily fixable.
Yeah.
but it certainly is something they have to look at.
It got me thinking, Barry, about last year with Dax Garman. You know, that was where he really had some struggles, is just not being able to get that intermediate game going as the season wore on and his confidence got worn down. We saw him throw the deep ball pretty well. Obviously, all facets of the passing game struggled eventually late in that losing streak, but you know, he was a guy that could hit the long ball, hit the short stuff for the most part, but the intermediate stuff was a problem. I think Mason Rudolph is clearly more talented than Dax Garman. I think they'll get it fixed, but you got to kind of wonder what the issues were there, and you know, you got to be better in that if you want to get better moving ahead.